Obviously, last day of minicamp. For the most part, people came out healthy. Obviously, Brandon had a toe he got stepped on, so he was held out today. Sudfeld has a knee injury, and Walls has a toe injury that they stayed inside.
During rookie minicamp, when we asked about Leonard Williams, he said, well, he should look good considering, at that time who he was going up against. How do you feel he fared this week, matched up against veterans more often?
I think he held his own, and the big thing's going to come in pads when you can get hands on people and shoulder pads and you can really show your strength. But from an assignment standpoint, and he wasn't a fish out of water, obviously, I thought he held up pretty good.
You guys have a lot of different running backs, and I guess I'm not entirely sure where they all really all stand. I mean, I know Ivory is the #1 guy right now, but what's in your mind the rough depth chart after Chris?
There's Ivory, there's Powell. Richardson's been here. Ridley's not practicing, and Stacy just got here. So as Stacy gets to know it's Ivory, Powell, Richardson, Stacy, and of course Ridley's not playing right now.
Would you give a better idea of when Steve will be 100% participation in practice?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I see him running straight ahead. The trainers are going to evaluate his side-to-side stuff, and I guess it's going to depend on how he feels. But just off the cuff, I couldn't tell you.
How severe is Sudfeld's knee injury?
He's running more tests, so obviously it's more than just a minor injury. So we're trying to see exactly what it is and what's to be done. So if it was a minor one, he would have stayed in the training room and still, so he's getting tests run.
Players are kind of learning what your practices are like. Did you also learn something, being the head coach of this camp and having all the guys here, that you find or you think you'll take into training camp?
No, you learn a lot as you go. I think as a coach you always learn. You learn some things and see how everything operates and things you want to tweak on in training camp and things you want to keep. But I learned a lot of things about drill-wise when to set up certain things and what looks better doing certain days than other days.
How has it been for you striking a balance between offense and defense as a head coach?
It's been different. It takes a lot more film work and you can't see everything on the field, so you just try to concentrate on one area at a time as you go. So it's just trying to balance it out. It hasn't been bad, just takes extra film work afterwards.
Coach, on Tuesday you said that you hadn't sat down with Wilkerson yet, but he knew where your office was. What's your approach and philosophy on getting to know these players on a personal level?
I'm around them every day, and we're around each other all day. What you don't see is that we do interact all the time. So my thing is you get to know them off the field a lot better than you get to know them on the field, so you kind of know what makes them tick. So in the morning meetings, in between meetings, break time, locker room time, walking to meetings, cafeteria, we get a good feel for each other, whether it's joking or serious or anything like that. You kind of learn what makes those guys tick. And, Muhammad just got here. Other than us being from the same place, we kind of had a meeting beforehand when I first got here. And when he first came in, I kind of know him. He kind of knows me, but he'll get a feel for what I like, what I don't like, just like I'll get a feel for what he likes, what he doesn't like. He'll get a feel for my kind of sarcasm and seriousness and all those things as we go.
What happened with Calvin Pryor? Seemed like on the field he hit Decker after Decker made a catch. I don't know if words were exchanged between them, but I just saw Calvin kind of just, wave his hand. Like, I don't know if there was were coaches telling him, like, calm down or anything like that on the field.
It's a football play. I mean, it's going to be testy at times, but at the end of the day, they're all teammates.
But how excited are you to see specifically the defense? Because on paper, everyone has obviously said that it looks like a pretty formidable group. But after being with these guys, with the exception of Muhammad, for a couple months, what are your expectations, at least entering camp?
I just expect them to be in shape, and the biggest thing I got out of camp from the defense is that they communicated. The communication was the key part. I don't have any expectations coming into camp, only for them to get better every day, as well as the offense. I want there'll be a lot of give and take in practice. Some days the offense will win, some days the defense will win. There's got to be a good balance, but for the defense in this camp, communication was the key as far as the things Coach Rogers was putting in.
Is this group, though, defensively as talented as any group that you've had?
On paper, we have a lot of talent. We had a talented group in Dallas when I was a DB coach. That remains to be seen when we get to camp. Name-wise and paper-wise, we have a lot of players that can play, but they still got to learn to play together.
What was the biggest thing you took away from the offense? You said communication was the biggest with the defense. What was your biggest takeaway with the offense this spring?
Offense, we try to get execution. You know, the execution on air is different than the execution when you have a defense out there and the coverage has changed and those type of things. I thought it got a lot better going forward as OTAs went on and as minicamp went on. In pads, you'll get to see the live blitz pickups and those things to see whether the backs can block or get run over, whether the lineman can pass off defensive linemen, and whether the defense can see the hots and peel on the back, so you get to see that live. But their execution is what I was looking for this camp.
So when this job opened, I think a lot of us maybe built up as the hard part would be filling a position that was owned by such a big personality in Rex. You seem to have not had any trouble with that at all. How do you think you've just taken ownership of the position? What about your personality? What have you tried to do in terms of that with your players?
I don't think I've tried to do anything special. I try to be myself and coach football. You know, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of successful coaches, and they all do it their own way. I have to make sure that I stay true to who I am and make sure the guys see that so they can relate to that. And you know, Rex did things his own way, which was great. I do things my own way, which is great. So I just try to concentrate on things that I can do and just be myself.
Coach, with Ridley, you may have a very limited time to evaluate, or probably less time than you would like. In that case, does what he's done in the past then come into play more in your mind, or how do you handle that?
Well, you handle what he does in the past, but it also gets handled by what the guys do in front of him. If all those guys are playing well and he gets limited time, then it's going to be tough. You know, if those guys aren't doing very well and he comes in and makes a splash, then you go by that, but only time will tell.
You touched on this a little bit yesterday with the Cromartie thing and the Twitter. You know, social media is such a big part of the NFL now, and we know that Tom Sula has already made his feelings known about it in San Francisco. He doesn't like it one bit. What is your overall philosophy on players kind of maybe making controversial remarks on it? I mean, do you tell the team that, or do you have people tell them that, or how do you police that?
Well, we talk about things every day, and team meetings every day is a different topic to discuss, and social media is going to be there. Guys have to understand there's a fine line between things that affect the team and things that don't, and you just have to be smart about things you say and things you do because everybody's going to see it. You just have to be more aware of your surroundings right there. And obviously, we don't want to hold a team that gossips and hasn't done anything, and I'd rather for us to just work on getting ourselves better as a team as opposed to just talking on social media. But it's a player's prerogative, but they got to understand if the coach isn't happy doing certain things, they're going to have to cut it short.
So have you specifically addressed that with them at any point over the last?
Yeah, we've discussed it. I mean, we've discussed it about being smart and knowing when to say things and when not to say things and what to say. And as far as football, keeping things to a minimum.
Don't you want guys to be themselves a bit, though, too?
Yeah, I don't want to be robots. I just said they got to be smart about it. I said there's a fine line between hurting the team and hurting yourself and then talking on social media. You just have to be smart about it. I would never police and tell somebody what to say, but you got to understand what kind of situation you're in when you say these things.
Coach, there was a touchdown pass from Gino to Velasu in practice. Have you seen a progression through this mini-camp in terms of, you talked about execution, his ability to execute a play like that?
It's been up and down. I mean, he makes some good throws, he makes some bad throws. There's got to be more consistency for the quarterbacks overall, you know. If it's a blitz period, they got to know when to get rid of the ball, when to find the hots and those things. When you get a guy downfield, you want to make big plays, but, you know, it's a practice play and it's a progression. I'm not going to make too much of the big pass or not make too much of it. We know he can throw the ball when he gets an opportunity.
On your running back depth chart, how would you stack them in the third down role? Like, what does your depth chart look like for the third down back?
That remains to be seen because I don't know who can block and who can't block right now. That remains to be seen. So right now, all three guys that are practicing are very similar, you know, and then Stacy will make the fourth guy practicing, and we'll see when Ridley comes back, and that'll be something that'll be ironed out in camp.
Todd, it seems like a big trend in the NFL now is joint practices in camp. Did you guys have any discussions about doing that at all this year?
Yeah, early on we did, but we couldn't work out anything. I think with a new coach and a new team right now, we got to concentrate on things we can do. Maybe a year or two from now, we got our feet underneath us and we understand our practice process. We may look into that.
Coach, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, could you see him getting healthier and healthier and therefore more effective?
Yeah, he's throwing the ball a lot better. He's moving around a lot better. He understands the offense. He's got a little more zip on his ball. That's good to see.
Coach, you've been fairly steady since day one that you got this job, but any way you can offer some insight, like what's been the biggest challenge for you being a first-time head coach?
Challenge-wise, just overall, looking at both sides of the football, it's not a challenge. It just takes more work. And then handling everything day to day, the things that aren't football. So they're not challenges, they're just extra things you have to do. My biggest challenge is out on the field, not having a position to coach or nothing to do, and just standing there with my hands crossed, and that gets boring for me. I got to find somewhere to put my hands, and I got to have patience not to jump in the drill and let the coaches make their mistakes and the players get corrected by the coaches as opposed to trying to jump in. That's been a challenge for me.
How hard is it to do that, not to want to jump in there when you see something happening?
Some days are harder than others. Some days you want to react, and then the coach has them, and you step back, and you got to remember you hired your coaches for a reason, so you got to trust them.
Todd, I noticed Brent Qualley played some right tackle with the first team today. Is Giacomini not locked into that spot?
He's the starter. Giacomini's the starter, but like I said, we're rotating guys all over the place. So while he was at guard, he was at tackle, we got a bunch of guys moving around there. But Brendan's the starter.
When you signed Ridley, was there some expectation as to when he might be ready, or just an understanding all along that, hey, this was going to be a heck of a long process?
No, we knew it would be a process, and we knew we needed time, and we want him healthy, and there's no hurry to get him healthy because we have good running backs on the roster. But if we can get a healthy Stephen Ridley, hopefully that can help us win some ball games.
As you mentioned, for him, is there some urgency, you think, to get back out there, considering if he can't show you he's one of your top few backs, you're not going to keep 6 running backs or 5 running backs?
No, I don't think he can get healthy. When we brought him in, we knew it was going to be a process. We didn't know how long, but we knew he had time. He can take his time, so there's no urgency for him to get healthy.
You said about delegating, kind of knowing when your coach is coach. How much with the defense are you putting things in? How much is Casey? Is he with installations and things like that?
Casey's putting everything in. As a defensive coaching staff, he's putting everything in, but we watch practice together afterwards, and we go over film and we talk about things, but he installs things.
Everybody good?
Thank you.